They telling me different things. That's supposed to be pulling strings, but I know they playing the games. I ain't playing no games. I'm on a different plane. I live on an infinite plane. Yeah. No, the news is fake. They're trying to choose my fate. I know the views is fake. They're pushing the global stage. Fake news on the radio wave. All the hoax, the whole world is a stage.
Okay, we are live. January 1st, 2025. And the year is already starting off to be very interesting, as we were hoping. And when I say I'm hoping for nukes and chaos and World War III and aliens and all of this, I don't mean literally. I'm talking about psychological operations and hyperstitions. I'm not a media fundamentalist. Just because it's on TV, I don't assume it to be real. It's a PR stunt until proven otherwise. In fact, I just sent out a newsletter. Let me go ahead and just read over that real quick while we wait the raft, which should be assembling here. Okay, so IPS 2025. 2024 was a very productive year despite many things not happening which I had planned. We didn't have to deal with any major shutdowns. On the legal battlefront, there have been some areas where we have had progress, but it's been mostly unseen, undiscussed. We have made some moves towards our first auto hoax convention by doing some preliminary Zoom conferences, and we now certainly have the content creators, the speakers for such an event. We just need to choose a venue. Sometime, also a date, I think between May and July. So we'll set that up as soon as possible and work toward it. Other projects we have, publications, Live World should be out shortly, and the upcoming tabloid, The Insider, is also here kind of waiting. But our think tank survived another year, and we exist here at the cutting edge of media criticism, and we have seen through every major misdirection sent to keep truthers running in circles. We don't have to, at this point, we're not trying to curry favor with the MSM or the MSM plus alternative gatekeepers. So we don't have to respect guardrails, orthodox explanations that no longer serve. The way forward is to stand by our claims until proven wrong. And so we have to be prepared to be wrong ourselves. We can't be afraid of being wrong, but it's also important not to be afraid to call others out when they are offering wrong answers, wrong explanations, because we're seeking answers. This is the thing here. You got seekers and followers. Followers become believers and seekers become knowers. This is a fundamental distinction. Someone had suggested to me that skepticism is just a belief, and I'm like, no. Like science, skepticism and the scientific method is essentially that. It's not a belief, it's a methodology. It's a way of examining information and then weighing claims. So it's actually a methodology for processing information, which is what we're proffering here. And the skepticism that we direct towards media is really a matter of active media consumption versus the passive. And our findings speak for themselves. We're getting the answers that we seek. And I'm noticing too, and many of you have, that many people outside of our circle are independently arriving at appropriate levels of skepticism. And I think it's just a matter of time until it becomes the dominant force in alternative thought and maybe even shakes the status quo up in Trutherville, where they're still stuck in the world what we call MSM plus. Controlled conspiracy rabbit trails. But it's been a very interesting week. And the last 24 hours, things have seemingly accelerated. So we've been talking about this thing in our Discord server. The big thing is the new it's real. And we already know everything about who did it and why. Sorry, that's not skeptical. Skepticism requires a suspension in judgment until you have all the facts. We don't have all the facts. But based on what we've seen, I think it's interesting that the truck was called a Ford Lightning, and at the same time there were a number of reports about various government buildings in the capital being struck by lightning. Probably not a coincidence. Here's a couple of examples. The Washington Monument, the U.S. Capitol, Empire State Building were all struck by lightning last night. And here's the truck used in the terror attack, Ford F-150. Lightning. And it says lightning right there on the side. So it's kind of interesting, the idea of struck by lightning, 35 people struck by lightning. They're calling him a terrorist, which means he didn't run over a bunch of CEOs, in which case he would be a hero. But he's dead. They shot him up, so we're not going to hear any more from him. But the story is being unpacked as we're watching. So he's a 42-year-old named Shamsuddin Jabbar, and he did have an ISIS flag, which they rolled up right away. Born and raised in Texas, served in the U.S. Army, and rammed through dozens of people, supposedly killed a bunch of people. Well, killed 12. Now, if I sound flippant about it, it's because I don't know if it's true, and you don't either. You might believe it, but you don't know, unless you know something we don't, in which case you should share the information. But I saw it on TV isn't good enough, especially when we're talking about terror attacks, which have, in the past, if it's any indicator, they have historically been psychological operations. Reports of a boom here heard near Trump Tower. So outside of Trump Tower, somebody parked a Tesla Roadster and it blew up. Kind of strange that you would pack an armored car full of explosives, but it does appear to be fireworks. Not that it wasn't a huge explosion, but people are making the connection, pretty obvious. Tesla, Trump, what's the connection here? They're hanging out, they're bros, they're dancing together at Mar-a-Lago on New Year's. And I want to point out too, because this is ominous if you look at it as a threat against Musk. As I pointed out in the Netflix show The Madness, which preceded the Luigi assassination of the CEO, in that series, the CEO, who's clearly based on Elon Musk, is assassinated. So just a heads up. There you go. A whole bunch of fireworks just exploded. They said the driver died. So again, is it real? You tell me. It's definitely a real explosion. And if anybody knows anything about explosions, and it'd be Musk. So here's just a few headlines. The numbers have since changed. 10 dead, 33 injured. Of course, it was at 3:30 a.m. in New Orleans. The attack on Trump Tower was at 8:40 a.m. They should have gone with 8:46. And here's a couple of interesting things, too. So Elon Musk tweeted this on December the 1st. This Cybertruck is on fire. And it has a Cybertruck with all kinds of cracks through it, like lava, like it's on fire. It's about to explode. And Musk tweeted, Cybertruck looks like the future. So this preceded this. And here you have the Tesla Roadster on fire right beneath the big T. Which got me thinking about the symbolism of Musk himself. We often talk about how he's a Frankenstein. He's Tony Stark, Gene Wilder. He's, Iron Man and Werner von Braun, all rolled up into one. But there's also a heavy dose of Henry Ford built into him. And you look at the T on Tesla, the T in Trump. I think it has deeper implications, especially when you look at Elon Musk as a reiteration of Pope Constantine, who had a vision of the glowing cross, just as Musk put his glowing X on the Twitter building. But we'll get into the iconography and symbolism here too. But again, Cybertruck looks like the future. The Cybertruck is on fire. And here you have it, a Cybertruck on fire. Joined by Esteban, Ted Stryker, Patricia Steer, Pondering Madness, Flozik, Syncloid. Lucid Stream says 2024 saw the coordinated effort pushing the anti-Israel narrative. Doing so has been forming the perfect setup for staged retaliation. I didn't expect they would pick January 1st to start the fireworks. Yeah, they're wasting no time. The fog. So I'm like, okay, it was Luigi, then it was drones, then it was the fog, and now it's truck attacks. So this is the next thing. And people move on. They don't have any recollection of what came before. We live in this perpetual now. It's kind of astounding to think about. I point this out, how you're told to fear one thing. Some big thing happens, and it's never solved, and you move on to the next thing without having resolved the previous thing. So like this summer, I was just marveling at how conservatives were terrified of cat-eating Haitians in Springfield, Ohio. A year before, they were terrified of cannibal Haitians being seen arriving on boats and taking over small towns. So it's like you guys never dealt with the cannibals, and now you're worried about the pet eaters. Like, so one thing at a time is what I'm saying here. Isabel Ann says, Happy New Gregorian 2025, my penguin friends. Thank you for joining. Joined by Let's Go, Roxy W. Lean Dion, Garrett Summers. Is audio chopping? It might be, hopefully not. We've had some issues with Gremlins recently. Cybertrucks don't need to have a driver, so probably nobody died. Right, it could have been empty, it could have been a dummy. They say somebody was in there, they say 7 people were injured. I don't know. Alright, truck on fire, truck ramming, fog, drones. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so yeah, it's starting off to be interesting. And look, I saw the NOLA thing, and none of it looks real to me. It looks like a drill. It looks stagey as heck. In fact, I think the mayor or the sheriff in New Orleans said something really ridiculous. He's like, we're going to go after this terrorist like he just stole Christmas. I don't know if you heard that. It was a peak cringe. And we're only one day into the year. But anyway, whenever they have flashy statements, they have a press release, and you get the backstory of the bad guy, all within a few hours, I kind of find it questionable. So here you have the terrorist wearing his army uniform. We even have him on video as a real estate agent giving his sales pitch. So here we have the report from CNN. It says the Cybertruck was triggered by a detonation system controlled by the driver.
Explosives that included fireworks, gas tanks, and camping fuel, and authorities believe that that was connected to a detonation system controlled by the driver. We're also hearing this same sentiment from Elon Musk, who tweeted out that they have now confirmed that the explosion was caused by very large fireworks and or a bomb carried in the bed of the rented Cybertruck and is unrelated to the vehicle itself. So he was clear to...
Okay, just to make it clear, because these things explode all the time. Electric vehicles like that, Cybertrucks, they're consistently exploding, if you've seen the videos. And then you have to worry about the frunk. You know, the front trunk, they say it's a guillotine. Like if you put your arm near the front trunk and you close it, your arm's going to get, well, sliced off. And hopefully that hand's not holding the keys, and your arm with the keys is locked in the frunk of your Cybertruck. Okay, let's move on. I'm just trying to keep the terror attacks in order. Okay, here it is. This is unglued. This is Louisiana Senator John Kennedy talking about how they're going to chase this terrorist and they're going to find out what happened as though they just stole Christmas, which again doesn't make sense because Christmas happened.
I don't know, and it's just not worth it. But I guess my final point is, I will promise you this: I will, when it is appropriate and this investigation is complete, you will find out what happened and who was responsible, or I will raise fresh hell. And I will chase those in the federal government who are responsible for telling us what happened, like they stole Christmas.
Okay, sorry, that was painful. Yeah, let me go ahead and bring this up so you don't think I'm making it up. The frunk on Cybertrucks. Man tests Cybertruck sensor with his finger. Will the Cybertruck's trunk crush your finger? Do not put your finger in the Tesla Cybertruck's frunk. Here's a quick video. And I see more and more of these things driving around. I'm always worried they're going to explode. But apparently that one, it required some fireworks and some gas tanks. Okay, check this guy out. He's putting his finger. This guy's brave. Anything for a click. He's putting his finger right there to see if the sensor is going to stop it before it closes.
Everybody's been waiting for this, the finger. Without further ado,
we'll return after these messages.
Okay, here we go.
This is before the software update. It is destroying everything. Just like that, the Cybertruck is updated and it should not be crushing any bananas.
Okay, so the sensor wasn't on and he was crushing hot dogs and bananas. So presumably he would have lost his arm. But you go in there and you fix the sensor. But here he is again.
Very easy. It put a little bit of pressure. Nothing too bad. How about my hand? That's getting a little bit scarier. It put some pressure.
All right, there you go. All right, let's move on. Didn't mean to get sidetracked. We're talking about Cybertruck blowing up. He says here, act of terrorism, both the Cybertruck and the F-150 suicide bomb in New Orleans were rented from Turo. Perhaps these are linked in some way. So that's a rental company that uses an app. I don't know if that means they're really connected. Breaking, Cybertruck explodes at Trump Tower in Vegas. And it's being investigated as an act of terrorism.
Right, Chris. So according to the reporting of myself, my colleagues Andrew Blankstein and Kelly O'Donnell, right now, 3 senior U.S. law enforcement officials say that this explosion of a Tesla Cybertruck, kind of in the portico there where you saw that smoke rising from in front of Trump's property in Las Vegas, is being investigated, at least initially.
I'm getting the feeling this is some kind of an inside job. I haven't received any fundraising emails from Trump yet. Roxy W. said, the MSM says New Orleans is not terrorism. Luigi is terrorism. I need deprogramming. Yeah, it all depends on who the victims are. Like, let's say this New Orleans guy ran over 30 CEOs from United Health. He would be a hero. He'd be more popular than Luigi. And Luigi is pretty popular. I think he's sharing a cell with Diddy right now. A massive crowd of Hamas supporters is taking over downtown Manhattan, calling for a global intifada 12 hours from the tragedy in New Orleans and Vegas. Okay. I was kind of wondering, when are the riots going to kick off? Like, Luigi kicked something off. He sparked something. And I believe they're building towards it, but I thought it wouldn't happen until the spring or the summer, like after May Day, but it might start sooner. All right, let's go through the notes here. There's plenty to talk about today. So FogVid came and went. Now, this is something I noticed a couple years ago. There were a couple of articles about these large-scale dirty bomb exercises being performed by the National Guard in Austin, and these involved drones, domestic terrorists, and drone attacks. So here's an article referencing something in May. We have drone swarms, dirty bombs, and a fake town where America practices for war. In the middle of the Mojave Desert, the U.S. Army has built up a huge set to prepare the soldiers for combat, filled with actors, tanks, and even fake news. So there's a fake town somewhere where soldiers are pretending to fight the Civil War. And I think this is likely where they're recording events, which will be presented as news later. Our Civil War is being pre-recorded, if anything. TURO, I looked it up, the rental company, and I believe it means like a leak or something. I was looking at the etymology of it, and I was wondering, does it have any kind of significance here? It means a drip, as from a leaky faucet or from a roof. So I don't know what to make of it. Unmitigated Mind says, doesn't Taco Bell serve those? Oh yes, you're talking about the fried apple pie things. Not the same thing as an infitata. Angst G says riots probably during inauguration. Yeah, it looks like something's planned, and I think a good indicator of what's to come is Civil War, the movie where Kamala Harris kills Trump. Like, we don't have to pretend we don't see the subtext. Civil War is about Trump in the White House, and Kamala kills him. And in that series I mentioned, The Madness, they make it clear that the CEO who represents Musk, the tech CEO, who's financing Nazis online, is the reason why the bad guy won the election. They're actually putting this out there. It's part of the story of The Madness that this election was stolen thanks to Musk. So the explosion of a Cybertruck outside of Trump Tower makes a whole lot of sense. Coming from the left, although some have suggested maybe it's coming from the right because a lot of far right Nick Fuentes types are mad at this bromance, which they see as not standing by the reasons why they got voted in. Like they're not going to be tough on immigration, for example. Oh yeah, if you want to call in, I'll put the phone up. It's 505-510-4226. So there's a show on right now called The Order. It's a movie, and I may watch it. It's $20 to rent it, but for research purposes, it may be foreshadowing what's to come. It's called The Order. And a fakeologist posted this screen cap. The Turner Diaries has been used as a blueprint for domestic terrorism for over 40 years, influencing events from the Oklahoma City bombing to the insurrection on January 6th. So they made that connection, which is interesting. If you look at the connections between Waco, Timothy McVeigh, Alex Jones, January 6th. Hey, what's up, caller?
Hey, Tim, it's Leo Pirate.
Hey, Happy New Year. How are you enjoying the PSYOPs so far?
I haven't been keeping up, but I did. That's a good reason for watching your show, because you keep up for me. I hear that the Silent Hill fog is infecting parts of the country. People are, getting sick. It's kind of crazy. It's like if you didn't know about it, it wouldn't even affect you. But
that's true.
The fog of
Psywar. But it is true that if you don't pay attention, you don't get the negative psychosomatic effects. So some people think you can tune out. I happen to think that being misinformed is not a winning strategy, because if you're just not paying attention, when something happens, where are you going to get your information from? So what we do here is we are informed. So this is a place where you can catch up in a few minutes.
And, the reason why I called in is to kind of go off of a discussion that we've had in prior episodes, is the idea of how mass media, nascitology, is the new religion. Like that is the religion that is adhered to by the world, essentially, those who transfix their gaze on the screen and take the news uncritically. And the exoteric understanding of the news is just taking it as it is. And the esoteric understanding of the news is the trutherville, the conspiracy theories. So it's the exoteric, esoteric. And I think you talked about it before. Trutherville is even worse. Woketown, Trutherville, they're in a nightmare, and it's even worse. But both of them are fundamentally based on lies, that like what comes from the screen is true. And something that this think tank does, and you've done your episodes, is looked at predictive programming, see how recent movies, you talked about The Madness, even in today's
yes,
episode.
The Madness is one of the greatest recent examples, and it perfectly foreshadowed the Luigi event and the entire attitude towards Musk and Trump that we're seeing right now. Definitely contains many elements of foreshadowing, very specific characters as well. But go on.
So yeah, exactly the way that this think tank has been looking at mass media for that. I've been looking at religions throughout, like world religions, to find out what is the eschatology of all religions, where are they trending towards. And it really led me down to the path to eventually be studying Mormonism, which I've been studying for the last 3 or 4 years. It's crazy. But all this predictive programming about a civil war, it reminded me about a scene near the end of the Book of Mormon, which is kind of crazy, because I don't think I've talked to you about this before. You and I, we've mentioned how the idea of a deep state is a esoteric MSM plus. It's an MSM plus view, right? The deep state. Oh no, the deep state is going to is what's holding back real liberty, right? And Trump is here to take out the deep state. In the Book of Mormon and the LDS Church in general, the Church of Latter-day Saints, the deep state is literally a part of their religion. This is near the end. There's this group called the Secret Combinations of the Gadianton Robbers that try to overthrow the judges they establish. And it breaks out into a civil war between the Nephites and the Lamanites. Well, they both combine against the robbers of Gadianton. And this civil war is interrupted by Christ visiting America, Zarahemla at the time, right? So if you want to talk about predictive programming or recent Netflix shows, here I am, I'm looking at this 1800s text, and I'm like, whoa, all the way back then, and their, antitypical eschatology, they see this country being overrun by the deep state, or the robbers of Gadianton, and a civil war breaking out, and then Christ appearing to interrupt the civil war.
Okay, this is interesting, and this deep state concept does have esoteric aspects to it, because if you look into the Q religion, which it is, they talk about the deep state, and they said it's a secret war between the white hats and the black hats. That is stolen from the Church Universal Triumphant, and their eschatology, their end times, is that the great white brotherhood is going to defeat the black hats, or the corresponding, the evil side, but that it's an invisible war. And in their view, the good guys are going to have some kind of, I guess, savior arrive, but that there are these people who are ascended but remain behind to help those who are fighting the good fight. And this is kind of similar to how the QAnoners are always worshiping celebrities who they believe are secret white hats. But anyway, this end times deep state thing, it's huge in the programming, and I see it throughout MAGA, and I see it throughout the Q stuff. So it does seem like they're setting a stage here, and it's all based on the same template. But the deep state is 100% a construct used to put things into simplistic good versus evil, and it's really just, it is MSM plus. It is a misnomer, because there is no deep state. There's only the state. There's no shallow state that's good. It's all the same entity.
Exactly. And the Gnostic false awakening will be the destruction of the deep state. Like, the deep state will be eradicated by the white hats, right? Like, by the good guys. And now you don't need to do anything. Just watch your screen. As Trump always says, right? Refill your popcorn. Didn't Trump even say that? I have an audio clip where he said that. I don't know.
He may have. But do you think they'll, like,
grab your popcorn?
Like, I've seen this movie called Daybreakers, and it talks about a bat that starts it all, and it's a vampire bat virus that takes over the world. But at the end of the movie, they literally go underground, and they free all the humans that were being used to have their blood harvested, and they actually take out the deep state. They take out the underground entities and free all the people. Do you think that there's going to be some kind of spectacle where there is a defeat of the so-called deep state?
Yes, and that's the reason why I study false religion and all these other things, not because I think their prophecies are valid, but because I understand the biblical concept of a false prophet, which is where what they say can come to pass, but it's a self-fulfilling or a fake prophecy. Like saying, tomorrow this building is going to be destroyed by the wrath of God. And then you set up explosives and the building is destroyed and everyone goes, wow, this person's a prophet. That's what a real false prophet is. Everyone thinks a false prophet is someone who says something and it doesn't happen. That's not the way the Bible defines it. So when of course, QAnon says a bunch of nonsense that doesn't happen. But if you believe in the screen, I think some of the stuff they talk about is going to happen on your screen. Not in reality, though, but like on your screen.
Yeah, they write their own self-fulfilling prophecies, and that's one of the strategies here. And that's what makes it seem so mystical. It's like, am I seeing the future? Why are these future events hinted at the news? Yeah, it's not prophecy. These are synchronized stories that are written with some level of knowledge that this is going to be performed on the world stage at some point. And who's in the know is kind of a debate here, but yeah, it's systemic. The fakery, the foreshadowing, it's not prophecy, but it's interesting how, yes, the QAnon cult may be set up to believe in some pretty wild things. I mean, look how they've been led to believe in all kinds of, like you said, it's just QAnon sense, but it's not going to go away. It's a very well-funded cult, and I think it's very well-funded, but I think it's designed to possibly make a certain group very susceptible to certain types of psyops.
and it makes them more bound to the screen. Because imagine for years you've been believing QAnon nonsense, and then finally all the QAnon prophecies are starting to come to pass on your screen. Would you want to even entertain someone like you or me, where you say, no, everything on the screen's fake? You would never. You'd be like, no, you're a false. Oh, get away! You're trying to mislead me from the truth.
Yeah, if JFK Jr. and Michael Jackson show up like tomorrow, then it's going to destroy my credibility with a lot of people, because I have been suggesting for some time that JFK isn't really Jesus and he's not going to come back and save us. But there are a lot of people who are seemingly attached to this notion. But I question a lot of these accounts. Many of these accounts are big and they have these almost like robotic responses. So I think this could be a very well-funded active measure to attach all kinds of strange beliefs, specifically among the MAGAs. And I think it's possibly even being done to legitimize the criticism of free speech, that too much free speech, too many mind viruses is affecting the mentally ill. That's what the show The Madness is about. It's about how the right wing has been too empowered and they've gone crazy because of memes. It comes down to that, memes. And one of the FBI agents in the series has lost a brother to basically MAGA radicalism, which turned him violent.
Yeah, I saw the screenshot where the subtitle said that, yeah, he was infected, right, with a mind virus. I forgot the exact words, but it was basically what you've been talking about for so long. Here it is appearing in this Netflix show, just straight up. They're not even hiding it. Trump also called the reaction to Luigi Mangione, people worshiping him, he called it a sickness. Like, I have that one clip where he said it. So it's pretty clear. And, the thing about active measures is not only does it discredit people who are, really looking into stuff, politicizing media fakery. We talked about that last time. It's like politics should not be a part of saying that what you see on your screen is fake, and yet somehow QAnon managed to pull that off. So aside from it discrediting real people, it also misdirects and shoehorns a bunch of people into a false belief system, which is then dictated by the metascriptors or the authors. So then they can be driven along whatever's on their screen if it fulfills their own prophecies.
Well, they're guilt by association. So now the QAnon shaman runs into the Capitol with a spear. You have various terrorists who do stuff because they believe Q wanted them to. They manufacture stories like that individual who supposedly stabbed his kid 17 times for the letter Q. They make up these stories, but now they're attached to everybody who even looks into this. So I look at it as a major foot bullet, an embarrassment, a sabotage campaign. But it's also great to just illustrate the power of media to shape worldview and put people into the various simulations. Like, it's a highly successful psyop, I have to say.
Oh, absolutely. Especially because it was the transition from the MSM, people like the older generation watching on TV, to them starting to use the internet. And they would go to social media sites or anonymous image boards, and boom, now they're getting the real scoop. They're like, oh, what I see on the screen, that's the basic stuff. Here's the real stuff. And by then, it had already been completely flooded by agents in place. And I think the worst thing is this particularly took place on a 4chan's anonymous image board leading up to the Trump election. There was a whole movement of people with CAC magic, which is now, I don't know if you know that's Elon Musk's username now. He's called Cacamus Maximus.
Yeah, he's embracing this stuff. And they, Trump, Emperor, God, King. Yeah, this is like this mythologizing of Trump. It's apotheosis. He's already been made into a god. And now Musk wants some of that too. And he's likely going to get it. But, what we do here compared to like the people you alluded to on Facebook is they feel like they've cracked the code. Media is lying, so everything that's not media is truth. And that's the problem with truthers. They lack a methodology. The best they can do is real or false flag. They don't have it in their framework that an entire event can be simulated. And that's why they're pliable. And that's why they're misled, because they haven't figured it out. They only think they have.
And, the worst thing is for me is there was an early age of the internet where memes were kind of organic, right? It really was early on. I don't want to romanticize the past because it was always bad. That's the old aphorism, right? It's like 4chan is always awful. But there was a real time where it was like normal everyday people just making organic memes. It's like once the QAnon psyop came about, rest assured, they had been keeping a close eye on anonymous image boards, Reddit, social media, Facebook, and others. And they're like, let's do this also. And yes, there's such a thing as federal memes. I know that's like crazy for people to imagine, but it's like the whole meme magic. What's that guy? Baked Alaska. Didn't he write a whole book on like meme magic and the tech stuff with the frog and stuff? Which, by the way, is named, a reference to an Egyptian deity, which is a little bizarre, right? And people were thought, oh, I'm practicing chaos tech magic because I'm spreading these memes, and they thought that they memed Donald Trump into office. Really, you would be, I don't know if you were browsing anonymous image boards at the time, but there was a huge subset of the political board that thought that they memed Donald Trump into office.
Yeah, I encountered this problem when after Vegas, Q said it was real and it was the deep state. And our Discord server at that point had hundreds of people, but there was a rift. All the people who wanted to follow Q had to therefore believe that the Vegas event was real. And I noticed that all these individuals were part of this idea that they were manifesting things. And they said that my negative attitude would prevent them from manifesting the perfect future. So I saw a lot of mysticism and new age, just kind of gibberish, more or less, being thrown into the mix, where now they're very pliable, they're open to anything, but now they also believe whatever they see on the screen. So we lost a lot of basically auto-hoaxers who backslid into the realm of Trutherville and MSM Plus explanations, and it's because of this whole Q nonsense. And yeah, it was a targeted operation, and it worked, because look at how loyal they have become, in this quote info war, where they're propaganda mules. What they call meme magic is really just information war.
Well, weren't the people who left you from Vegas, because like, oh, you're just calling everything a hoax, weren't they very critical of that shooting involving sand, if you catch my drift? Like the sandy shore.
A lot of people couldn't go all the way. A lot of people still can't. So there's this line I drew in the sand then. I said, it's not enough to call the news above fake and say it's categorically fake until proven real. It's all fake so far. And then say it's real on the ground. If you can't call out the fakery above and below, since it's coming from the same PSYOP entertainment complex, then you're 1 foot in the matrix, 1 foot out. Your perspective is invalidated. And a lot of people couldn't put it together. They can see that tree is fake, that tree is fake. They can't tell that the entire forest is fake trees. So here we come along, clear cutting the forest, and they think there's something wrong with us. And it's like, no, we're right 100% of the time. I'd like to be proven wrong. If you can show me which pile of bodies, which PSYOP, which shooting, which terror attack was real, provide that information. But no, we've been vindicated too many times in a row. So like, okay, with this particular event in New Orleans, seems to be kind of realistic looking. But for me, the indicators of it being a hoax are the data dumps. We know everything about the shooter. And then the truck was called a Ford Lightning, which weirdly corresponds to the lightning striking iconic monumental buildings, the Washington Monument, Empire State Building. So the idea of a lightning strike, terror attack, it just seems like a lot of narrative. What do you think about this NOLA attack?
100%. And, there's a danger of losing the forest for the trees because, and I almost think that the Sandy Beach thing was, if you will, like an easy to disprove stage thing, because we didn't see, there was no footage. It was only after the fact, crisis actors laughing on the mainstream news, which they left in, by the way. They left in Robbie Parker on CNN, like smiling and laughing before he went up to the mic, which was bizarre to me, right? But it was such a small scale PSYOP. Then once you get to Vegas or to any recent events or even 713, where it's a big audience, oh, there's no way that could be fake. By the way, so a fireman died in 713, right? Oh my God, why would they, do it? For me, when you understand that it's staged, it actually makes more sense that no one died, no one cried, because in a stage production, you have complete control top to bottom. If you mix in these elements of organic, if you're like, oh, a false flag, right? Or you're actually terrorizing and taking out huge swaths of population stuff, then you have no narrative control. Right? That it's just
right.
That for me is what it is.
Well, it's a paradigm shift to understand that we're looking at mind war, and what they have done is there's a lot of cognitive sabotage. Like I still maintain that the entire idea of introducing mysticism into media analysis is a misdirection. So anybody who sees the pattern, who sees the fakery, they say, hey, it's fake on TV, so reality's fake. That's a leap, when instead they should be saying what the TV is presenting is a simulation of the world, a version of it that doesn't quite comport. But what happens is the people who are paying closest attention are being misguided, misled, so they aren't able to distinguish between real and fake. So I think we're deep in this sea of irrelevance, the information war, and most people aren't capable of seeing their way out of it. And I make this point all the time that you might see through a psyop, but if you can't see the psy-war, then you're lost in the woods. We're on this raft, we're buoyant, and they're submerged. And there's nothing you can tell them that is going to bring them up to speed. They have to change their entire frame of reference. And that's not something you can give to somebody. And most people are kind of intransigent. They don't want to let go of their concept. It's like, no, it's a false flag. People died. How dare you? It's like, okay, well, you're stuck in like an old model of looking at things that's designed to keep you stuck. And it's kind of sad, but it's not our job to fix them. You know, we just got to reach the people who have figured it out, or those who are close enough to where you take down one or two guardrails and then they're on board with us.
Well, yeah, the simulation theory really is the ultimate guardrail, because they can even see the stuff we point out with narrative framing, predictive programming, concurrent programming, all that stuff. And they say, but the news is still real. Like, of course, those things are all valid, you're pointing out, but the news is still reporting on reality. It's like the ultimate guardrail, right? It's like the final thing that's holding them back. And it's not to discount that they might have personal experiences, personal spiritual experiences with synchronicity and stuff. But they need to understand, it's like what's on the screen is not your personal life. And what it is they may have had such experiences in their life, and it's validated by what they see on the screen.
Yeah, or so they say. I mean, David Icke, for example, he's one of the big proponents of this. What I'm suggesting here is David Icke's whole model, and even Alex Jones leans this way, is that we're in a computer simulation. And the problem with this model is that it removes the responsible parties. It hides the psy-war. And this is actually part of conspiracy theory culture and has been for a very long time. The idea that revelation of the method, dark warlocks are doing the psyops and they're responsible for hints of the media. Like, we moved past this 2 years ago. I don't even feel the need to debunk it. I've already dealt with it. I've dealt with the Mandela effect. It's not relevant to our interests, so I'm hoping to leave that in 2024. And anybody who still clings to that as an explanation is welcome to. It's not my business. But we know better at this point. And there's a lot of outmoded explanations that can stay in the past, and we can just continue to move forward. You know, I'm not going to wait on the Mandela effect to figure out that Timmy never fell down the well to continue on our mission here.
Well, you know, when we talk about the metascript, I really think that the ultimate metascript that has been running for a long time parallel to truth is Gnosticism. Like the versions of Gnosticism, once you truly, and it's difficult to pin down, by the way, because it's not like Book of Mormon. It's not like the Jehovah's Witness literature. And so you can't find it any one book. You can find a lot of commentators trying to enumerate on it, but it's really this amorphous idea of the demiurge, archons, the construct that we're all within a flawed world from a flawed creator.
The architect. The architect from the Matrix.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you see that I don't think there's any mistake why the Matrix was huge amongst 90s or 2000s conspiracy theorists. It's the ultimate Gnostic movie. I think, the Matrix trilogy is like the perfect Gnostic.
Well, okay, so
it's the best production.
It became the model for truthers to see the world, and it's by design. They inserted it into their paradigm. And I don't think it's a coincidence that it was also associated with, of course, the Littleton shooters right after. But when you look at the movies that shaped the culture, that are target marketed, they gave them certain ideas. And it's a very Gnostic concept of the simulation world. And so seeing through the fake news now makes you Neo in the Matrix, when really, no, you're just seeing through fake news. And so I'm trying to bring the whole conversation down to earth. And in order to do this, I've had to confront certain outmoded ideas that not only don't make sense, but might even be intentionally planted cognitive sabotage designed to prevent people from arriving at the right conclusions, which I believe we have now.
Yeah, and it's because if you don't identify them, and you have done a good job in like trying to identify things that most conspiracy theorists just take for granted, right? It's like identifying, calling it out, and reverse engineering it is important because if you don't, you could still be susceptible to the false Great Awakening, where you see on your screens like, oh my gosh, Donald Trump, he was taken out, but the white hats have now taken out the deep state, and now we're in this new, amazing, brave new world, right? Isn't that the new the new Marvel movie that's coming out, right? So I don't know. Yeah, that I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Yeah, and I'm not even trying to reach those individuals. Like I said, I encountered them on Twitter. Anytime I'm debating somebody, it's not to change their mind, because you can't. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to elucidate where they are wrong so people who are following can see it as an example. And those who can see it, who can use reason and logic, will naturally gravitate towards what we're offering with the parallel media. And the parallel media right now is just the IPS, Fakeologist, and JLB. We have these circles that overlap, but it could scale up massively once people realize that they are wasting their time chasing conspiracy rabbit trails. They are literally wasting their lives, and we can fix that. But yeah, well, thank you for calling in. Appreciate it as always. And with this New Orleans thing and the Trump thing, yeah, I'm with you on that. It's likely theater, but I'm waiting. I'm waiting for more information before I say unequivocally nobody died, but I'm pretty sure nobody died.
Same. But yeah, thanks, Tim. All right, bye.
All right, thanks for the call. We got a super sticker from Lucid Streams. Thank you very much. It says, Hippo character stands idle whilst his new and most powerful body attachments do their thing with the word OP in the background. So that is Restream's description of an animated sticker that I wasn't able to see. Okay, so we're talking about a couple of simultaneous psyops, and the Turner Diaries is right now on Netflix. We have a lot of information about this shooter or this truck driver. This guy rented a truck, a terrorist who did have an ISIS flag, which they covered up at first. Then we have some weird evidence of Musk a day before saying that this looks like the future, that Cybertruck is on fire, and then there's a Cybertruck on fire right in front of the Trump hotel. So what's up with that? Seems to me likely fake. There's still a lot of people who are pushing back against the final experiment, and someone here, his name is, I can't even pronounce it, DuydatYds. Like, you need to get pronounceable monikers. He said, a funny thing happened on the way to Antarctica. And someone should make a documentary about this. A funny thing happened on the way to Antarctica, because the way the final experiment is turning out, it's being looked at like a fake moon landing. It really is. And nobody's letting go. Witsit Gets It hasn't really helped his case. Jaron admits that Witsit was a vapor. And people are asking questions like, can you even vape there? But beyond the vape and walking in the snow and all this stuff, there's even more. This one here shows that this is a big one. The shadow gives it away. So 10 p.m. at Union Glacier with Mount Rossman illuminated. The sun can't be behind the mountain in just 2 hours. So here's a huge discrepancy.
Guys, I just have a quick...
This is, again, a discrepancy from Flat Earth Banjo. And what he's suggesting here is that the person is claiming he's out at 10 p.m., but it's not possible. He would have to be more like 6 a.m. So there's some shenanigans here. So let me play a little bit of Flat Earth Banjo.
Important, these guys got busted big time lying. So this is Chico Matos. This is a Brazilian guy who works at a Union Glacier. He's a guide there, okay? So here you're going to see him.
Okay, so this is the guide at Union Glacier where they went. And here's the problem.
I'm going to translate first, and then I'll let you hear with his own voice. But pay attention to this, okay? So he's at 79 degrees south, and he says here it's 10 p.m., okay? It's 10 p.m. Now pay attention when he says it's 10 p.m.
Eu tô a 79 graus, às horas da noite, e é dia, e aqui é sempre sol, o tempo.
So he's showing how Mount Rossman is totally illuminated, and you see his shadow. And now, looking at this from above and at different points of the day, he's able to ascertain here that it couldn't possibly be 10 p.m.
But look at the Mount Rossman, how illuminated, that's 10 p.m., right? So let's now look at the camp. That's the camp. You see the camp, look at the Mount Rossman in the back, and the filming location, that's where they filmed. So if it's 10 p.m. there, and the mountain is all illuminated, that means it was not 10 p.m.
Now, you'll have to watch the video and see it for yourself. I'm just giving you a basic overview, but it does seem like a discrepancy, some kind of a discrepancy. Sink Lloyd says, Jaron and Whitsitt mooned America. That's pretty good. So what's it going to be? A funny thing happened on the way to Antarctica, or Jaron and Whitsitt mooned America? I think it's funny how a vape addict brought down a multi-million-dollar psyop, if it's a psyop. It'd be like if you saw a clip of Buzz Aldrin on the moon without his helmet on or something, smoking. Like it's kind of damning if he did vape to pretend like they were in lower temperatures. And I got a message from someone yesterday who said, we really need to look into this. He said that there's a static camera at Union Glacier. And on the day they were recording a 24-hour sun, it was overcast. So here we go. Speaking of VapeGate, Flatzoid showed a stream from a static weather cam located at the camp that showed it overcast. Yet, the final experiment time-lapse showed no cloud in sight, which is extremely unusual for that location. So again, if you don't accept it, it's because you have reasons. I don't accept it because I have reasons. I'm saying, no, there's too many red flags for me to say I believe it. I'm going to suspend judgment a few more days, maybe 2 more weeks, but I don't believe it's real yet. I want to see the storm that chased them out of Antarctica. Where's the storm? I didn't see it. They said there were some penguins, but not where they were. Like there were penguins at some other point. Hopefully they got some footage. So again, just to remind you, Ford 150, it says lightning, and this is the truck. U.S. Capitol struck by lightning. 4 iconic buildings zapped. So I think there's some kind of a connection here. And of course, so with explosive trucks running over people, lightning strike, something's going on. I did see a video here, and in this video, people notice that the flag isn't in the truck, which is kind of weird. So it's a walkthrough style video, kind of like we saw in Vegas, and there's just so much trash on the ground. It's hard to see if it's a person or a pile of trash. Now, I've been told by people on Twitter that that is normal for Bourbon Street on a night like this, that it's just covered in trash. I don't think so. I don't think so. Because with the Vegas event, it looked like a sea of trash. And I think what they do to make it look like a lot of people were there and they had to clear the scene to exaggerate the sense of chaos, they put a lot of prop trash. So I'm suggesting that this is a lot of prop trash. So there are some videos here. I'm not going to play them live, but it's the usual flip phone, blurry footage. You don't really see anything. They're moving too fast. And what you do see look like training dolls, like dummies on the ground. So, and I guess there was a recent truck attack as well. Where was the previous truck attack on Christmas? Which they said was some kind of like terrorist from Saudi Arabia or something. Got to get all the terror attacks here in order here. We're talking about the New Orleans one. Then there was the Christmas attack. And then we have oh look, there's a wiki page for it. 2025 New Orleans truck attack. We already have a wiki page, which means it's history. It's real. Even if we determine it to be a hoax, it's going to go down in history as real. And it's going to set the stage for the mainstream narratives over the next few weeks or months. So that's why I say it's significant to notice that the news is being bent by fake news. and fake news becomes history, so our history is bent. We live in a false world view. The white Ford F-150 Lightning light-duty truck had been rented through Turo. There were rumors he came through Eagle Pass. Those were lies, as I assumed. They did, in fact, identify him. 42-year-old, raised in Texas, in the Army for 10 years, information technology specialist, deployed to Afghanistan, honorably discharged. We got the whole background here. Just got to wait for the manifesto. But this is what I call Scooby-Doo justice. It's like an episode of Scooby-Doo where the event happens, and in the course of 30 minutes, you know who did it, why, who's beneath the mask. You've read the manifesto. The bad guy's been dealt with, sentenced, killed. So in this case, it's case closed. Nothing to see here. Adam Geringer says, you don't have to go to Antarctica to prove water doesn't bend. Right. Well, shape of the world is secondary to whether or not we're in a closed system, which obviously we are. We talk about it all the time, the closed fictional universe of MSM. But until you've stepped outside of that closed system, there is, I guess, really no point to even talking about the shape of the world or cosmology. Because even if you could unequivocally prove to me that we're on a spinning ball globe, which I'm happy for, I mean, I would like that. It'd be easy, simple. Space is cool. I love science fiction. If you're able to prove that, fine. But everything that we know of outer space has been special effects. Like special effects enhanced science. Science ends at the Kármán line, 62 miles, and then it becomes the Disney universe. So I can't even consider the globe to be a complete model until I know what's up with space. And everything we know about space has been falsified. So therefore, I don't have enough information to say it's real. Flat or round. Like, I don't have enough information. Maybe you have some special insight that I don't. But it's not even that important of a debate. It's just a misconception that we have all the answers. If you buy into the dominant paradigm, you're a nasatologist, and you believe everything they tell us, well, you know the universe ends somewhere. It's expanding. You just don't know what's at the edge. But you feel like all the questions have been answered from here to there. Well, if you don't assume an edge or don't assume a ball, you still have the same questions, what's at the edge? But the answers are much closer. And the idea of space and the distances involved could all be misdirection. I don't know. Maybe they're hiding continents. And when they start mining from space and becoming trillionaires, they're really just dragging stuff from someplace we're not supposed to know exists. NDB says Sham and Sudden Jab was his name. Okay, I saw the Sham. I didn't see Sudden Jab. Kind of interesting. Lucid Stream says, imagine an outsider reading the live chat with no knowledge of the context. Yeah, I can imagine that they would. I mean, the outsiders are trained to believe that they have a false, or they believe they have the moral and intellectual high ground. How dare you say nobody died? What would you say to those families? You're terrible for questioning the event. You're intellectually deficient for not believing. That's what they're told. So they're all pumped up on being true believers when they're low information believers. And here we are, highly informed about these events, which makes us not believe them. So I'm a highly informed disbeliever in what you believe with no reason. You're unreasonable. We know something you don't, which is why we don't believe it. And these are important points. So we can say we have both the intellectual high ground because we're skeptics and they're not. And we have the moral high ground because we are the only ones conscientiously objecting to the Psy War. If you're not, if you say it's real, you are enabling terrorism. You really are. You're enabling state-sponsored terrorism against the masses. You're part of the Psy War. You're actually part of the problem being a believer. Even though you're not responsible for what the extremists in your religion do, you're still part of the problem if you're not actively speaking out against it. And those who question us as though they're devil's advocates, like, well, who are you to call it fake, or how can you know it's fake? It's like, well, how do you know it's real? You know, your source is the screen. That's an implicit appeal to authority. And I reject its authority because it has been exposed time and time again as a pathological liar, a confabulator. Joined by the Helena Phoenix channel. Yes, I'll be handing you a wrench if you don't have one. If you're on the original channel, you should have one. And if you do, it's like 8 years old or 7 years old. So that blue wrench, it's like worth more than an NFT. Observing Reality says, what is that picture supposed to be? Okay, that's a picture of the Cybertruck blowing up on fire right there in front of Trump Tower. And this happened concurrent with the event it happened the morning after New Orleans. And then here, Cybertruck looks like the future. Cybertruck on fire. Musk tweeted this yesterday. An image of a burning Cybertruck design. Somebody says the Cybertruck's on fire. He says it looks like the future, and then it happens. So again, there are no coincidences on the world stage. Coincidences exist. There are coincidences. There are mere coincidences. But everything on the world stage should be considered as intentional until proven otherwise. I wish I had more time. Here's a little tidbit posted by Violet. People were killed, 35 injured when a suspect drove a pickup truck around Bourbon Street at 3:30 a.m. Not saying that proves anything, but we do happen to notice certain patterns, and I would be remiss if we didn't point out the obvious 33s that they put on the face of every single hoax. And, so we have the shooter from Butler was in a BlackRock video. Ryan Routh, the guy who was at the golf course ready to shoot Trump, he was on a BBC documentary. The guy from the truck attack on Christmas was on the BBC talking about activism. And now here we have the latest terrorists. They all exist in social media. They all have easily findable video clips to make them seem realer. So to me, this is just a character. But here is a video from 4 years ago of Sam Sudden Jabber, or Sham Sudden Jabber. That is his name, Sham Sudden Jabber.
I'm Shamsuddin Jabbar, property manager with Blue.
Well, that's how you pronounce it. But it does look like a world stage name. But this is just a pitch for him to be a real estate agent. Doesn't seem like there's anything wrong with him. But it does look like this is just to make him more than a two-dimensional character.
Brilliantly market your property to make sure it gets sold as quickly as possible or gets leased as quickly as possible. But I'm also going to take every ounce of energy and putting it into negotiating for you and for your property to get the best deal that you can possibly get for it. So once we get to the closing table,
we have just a few minutes, and so we'll get more information about this, and we'll talk about it tomorrow, but I wanted to get a head start. Someone else said there's a New Orleans there's another mass casualty event, Children of a Lesser Shed Dog said, in Queens, New York. Nightclub, 13 dead. I mean, there's shootings every weekend. 11 people wounded. Look, if nobody's dead, okay, this is real. I'm pretty sure it's real. 11 people wounded in a mass shooting. If it's just woundings, it's real. If it's not a heavy body count up front, if there's not a political agenda, if there's not a politician, if there's not a press conference, it's pretty much real. So I think the one in Queens is probably real. It's too believable. It doesn't even seem like an extraordinary claim. So I'm suggesting that one's probably real. Just to show you that I'm objective about this. I don't just flippantly call things fake. And by the way, if you're in Michigan, there's going to be dirty bombs on the menu for March. NNSA holds consequence management exercise every 3 years, and since 2012, they've had similar exercises. So in Michigan, there's going to be a dirty bomb drone attack exercise. Just something to look forward to. And Nicotramus was saying we need to start profiting off of our ability to read the future. So keep that in mind if we're going to be dealing with fallout. We're going to be dealing with all kinds of psyops related to the nuke and who knows what else, but I think EMP. So there may be some, I guess, opportunities here for some disaster capitalism if you want to make some money. Lucid says, I shot a hoax today with 3 dogs as crisis actors. They played their casualty roles well. Got a treat. Well, there are crisis dogs, crisis fish. We've seen many examples of animals. There's a crisis donkey, I remember, after 10/7. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. I have a lot more, but we're just going to have to wait until tomorrow. I'm trying to wrap up the editing process on Lie World. But these stories are still under development. I say real, I mean, with the Queens one, because there wasn't anything extraordinary about it. This story is just full of narrative. This character has a easily researchable history, the ISIS flag. Everything about it to me says drill, although some of the footage looks real. Does that mean it's real? No. I got fooled by a clownfish the size of a whale. The Helena Phoenix channel says, you taught me that we live in an illusion IPS. You were right from years ago. Yeah, the important thing is that the world's not an illusion, but our mental construct of the world has been tampered with. So for all intents and purposes, we do live in a simulation. You could say delusion. You know, because, I mean, you say simulation and we get mixed up with simulation theory, a separate topic. I would almost say it's a delusion, a mass agreed upon delusion, which is actually a quote from Leave the World Behind, where Julia Roberts' character says that we live in an agreed upon mass delusion because we essentially need it for cohesion because we're so terrible. But delusion makes more sense because I'm not attributing it any kind of reality. The simulation is your mental construct, your mental map. And if you're aware of your surroundings and you're not experiencing heavy dosages of media giving you cognitive dissonance, your mental map will match the territory. And what we're describing here is where it doesn't, where it clearly doesn't. Not only does it not match the territory, but we're put into an alternate reality full of fakery. And the extent of the fakery has been underestimated and minimized by most people who are, you know, so-called truthers, where they think that fakery is like an occasional thing. They fake some things or it's a force multiplier. But no, this is a completely different picture that's emerging. We're talking about systemic media fakery. It's structural to what media is. So when it comes down to it, media is not what people think. Like, this is the only real conspiracy. All the other conspiracy theories that people talk about are fake, debunkable, useless wastes of time. The only real conspiracy is this one. Chris Kelly says, where's your Discord? I'd like to join the chat. Yeah, go to ips.monster. I have to leave now. I have an Uber gig. Go to ips.monster. And you will be able to access our Guilded, where we do most of our research. The Discord server, right there linked on the front page. And if you sign up for the newsletter, you will get live stream notifications and the newsletter and archives sent to your inbox. So this has been great. We're going to continue this conversation tomorrow. I'm glad to see a lot of people showing up. You know, we never stopped. This think tank has maintained its cohesion since 2017, 2016, but the channels have been consistently shut down, and we had to push back against that, and we managed to, I think, push back against it to the point where they don't touch us anymore. I have a monetized channel, multiple channels with thousands of subs, so I think we're in the clear. We still play it safe around certain topics. But anyway, this has been great, and we'll be live at some point tomorrow. Have a great evening. Thanks for your comments.